are no facts to prove David guilty. There are only facts which prove David innocent. Hence the resistance to getting justice for David Crowley and family. Who cares? Do the people who closed this case and decided to not speak about it ever again really care? Do the friends who accused David Crowley of being guilty days after his body was found really care? Perhaps they only care about spreading the accusations of David's guilt instead of researching the facts of this case. They don't seem to care about the facts which prove David innocent. Truth is a simple thing. Justice does not die. Facts prove David is innocent. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, and 3. Excellent. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me really quickly here. Just wanted to thank everybody for helping us keeping this case going. It's been quite the journey, and I'm looking forward to the next phase of this journey here. I have tried to reach out to Detective Gummert again, and I will continue to try to reach out to him until we can get two simple answers about two of the most important things, I think, at this point, and things that will just, that he could quickly, within a few minutes, probably help us put these things to rest. The first thing, obviously, is the dog feces test. It's very important to know if dog feces tests were ever done or if they weren't done. That's the first thing. The second thing that we obviously want to know is, we want to see the image that was taken on January 17th that shows that there was a bullet hole in the living room ceiling. The police claim to have it. So all that we're doing is trying to get a clear answer and see.
Well, it was definitely a professional hit, but I think everybody's looking in the wrong direction. I think the movie studio and the people that he was involved with were setting him up and were keeping an eye on him. So he was under CIA deep state surveillance, and they were just in control of the situation. And finally, he caught on and was going to blow the whistle or something. Something came up.
Order came through.
I mean, they did it quickly, and they had no idea it was coming. So, he knew he was pushing a whole lot of buttons, and he had said that he had death threats and all kinds of stuff. But I don't know. It was a pretty nasty hit, and to me, it looks more of the direction of the release of it and the thing that was going on with the movie, the people that were producing it with him. I think they got scared, and they had to shut him down right away.
Yeah, I see Bobby Vicarious. This man's name is Crowley, really? Yeah, isn't that interesting? I mean, just to add to the mysteriousness of the possibility of a complete psyop here, too. Are we seeing, gentlemen, some fortune telling here of, say, what's going to happen in the 2020 elections with Trump and the libtard left, and what could happen to this country because of it? What do you think, Greg?
I think you might be on to something there. Definitely. I think that if David Crowley was here, I think he would be pointing out a lot of those things that we're talking about here. A lot of the libtard stuff, basically. So I think he would have been a big threat to what we are going to see here in the next year, probably in the next couple of years, because I do think Trump will win. And I think that is really going to, I think it's, we've seen a lot of drama. We've seen a lot of problems. We see a lot of this weird stuff happening. I think it's just they're going to turn that volume up. And people better be ready, man. You better be ready, however you can.
The pressure cooker is definitely boiling, guys. I mean, my hometown is Dayton, Ohio. I grew up not far, about 10 miles from where the shit happened. And I'm telling you right now, the Oregon District, my dad helped produce the Oregon District to what it was because they had started out, it was a rundown neighborhood. And my dad got on council down there and used to do the fish fries for the church. And he was the head custodian for one of the major Catholic churches down there for 38 years. So he got in with all the townspeople, and Jim Lehman. They said, would you help us redo the Renew District? And so they started doing it down there. They redid that whole area and made it look like you were in New Orleans kind of stuff. And it looked beautiful, came out great. So they hit my hometown in a district my dad helped build, Wow. And look, I think Dayton was real. I don't think El Paso was. I think El Paso was completely. But see, the thing about Dayton is we have footage too of stuff that was posted in the paper for the next day and the day after. So it's hard to tell, man. But it looks like Dayton is more sporadically. It was more randomly done. But El Paso just looks like it might as well say SH and Hook and any other kind of Sandy anything, and there's 5 other things I can think of, not to mention San Bernardino.
San Bernardino.
Oh, really?
Remember when we did the big?
You just cut off the last 10 seconds. You were just cut off the last 10 seconds, Jeff.
The San Bernardino.
Yeah.
The SH Hook.
Yep. See, you're getting trained to do it too now.
I don't want to do it. See, you know me, Eric.
Because
Eric.
We don't. If we continue to use the words, then the word never gets out. So we can still beat the algorithms. It still hasn't come to that point where we have been censored to the point where, well, maybe we are.
Because Eric, you know me. I don't have punches on this stuff. I will talk about it. I'm doing that because I don't want to get us kicked off the channel. But I'm telling you right now,
we can say whatever we want on here on Revolution Radio, uncensored, and listeners.
You're the one that keeps throwing out the codes. You're the one that keeps throwing out the codes. So if Sandy Hook, listen to me. This stuff all has the same exact look as Sandy Hook and all the other stuff. So when you go down the run, there are too many things that just don't add up.
What about Ohio also?
Ohio
and Gilroy. Don't forget about the Gilroy.
Well, like I said, Dayton, Beaver Creek. My dad engineered that district. I grew up in Beaver Creek. I grew up in Dayton, which is Beaver Creek's right up the road. It's 10 miles away. So, like I said, everything that had to do with my dad and that town, I recognized from my childhood, and they just turned it into a mess.
Did you check into the hospitals? That was the first thing that I've learned to look into, is find out, if there were this many victims plus people injured, there would be a log of it, and lots of people in a certain hospital in close proximity to where these things went down. Did you check it out?
I didn't, because I actually was going to go today and try and take footage of the president being there, and then they called the cancellation, and he wasn't actually going to Dayton. So I got all bummed out and didn't go because I was going to go up there and shoot live video of everything going on and how it was going down. And there was supposed to be people picketing up there and doing stuff. But then all of a sudden they called it on Fox News and said that he decided he got to the airport and the mayor and somebody else, one of the other,
some lady from the city council
met him there and said it's insensitive if you go. He went to the hospital, but he didn't go down to the organ district where you can actually see anything. So I I had to work today anyhow. So between working and trying to make that happen didn't work. But
right. Are you familiar with this? With these two newest shootings?
Yes.
Yeah, we are, both of us.
What about you, Greg?
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's your take?
Don't forget, there's three. There are three.
Three.
Yeah, the whole Gilroy one that happened close here. I'm very close to where that happened. There were multiple shooters, and I made sure that I took as many screenshots, as many videos, backed all of that stuff offline because this is what they do. The story always changes it. It always starts with many shooters, and then it winds down to one. Now, the last one, the Dayton one, I do kind of agree with Jeff there too. There is something a little different about that. I haven't heard anybody talk about any multiple shooters, but it's kind of like the Orlando at the Pulse. The Pulse, it's a nightclub or something. So that was a couple. Yeah. And I was going to ask you guys too. Is there a pattern here? I mean, at what point do we say that there is a clear pattern here, that these are not just random things, that this is all part of a bigger program?
Well, I can answer that question for you. You know for sure it's a bigger program, but you can also go by, there's certain classifications that you have to follow with this, okay? First of all, what kind of weapon was used? If he used just some random llama pistol or something like that, those are instantaneous. Those are spur of the moment things. These guys are coming out with barrel, their ATF automatically comes out. It's a 223 long rifle, AR-15 style assault weapon with twin 50 cal barrel clips on it. Okay, come on, guys, listen. The shooter walks into a Walmart with an AK-47 and 4 clips. Okay,
it's called a mag, you idiots.
If you literally just do the homework as you're watching this stuff, some of it just doesn't add up. It's like, look, I know guys that have guns. I know guys that have ARs, all that other stuff. It's just the fact that every one of these nut jobs that wears, Coke bottle glasses and looks like Adam Lanza just happens to own an AR-15 with barrel clips. It's always got to be an upgrade from the last one. It always has to be, well, then he had that, and he has body armor. Oh, and he was, if you remember, Adam Lanza was 100 pounds soaking wet, and he had 130 pounds of gear on, was carrying, 2 9mm, a 45, a 357, 2 AR-15s, shotgun. They had so much stuff that they said he was on him, and then it comes down
we would have weighed Rambo down.
Right.
Rambo would have moved slower.
Totally impossible. Okay, and then I love
105 pounds soaking wet and freaking over 6 feet.
Same with the Batman shooter. Same with the Batman thing.
The Batman shooter.
Right.
Look, I'm trying. This is so ridiculous when you look at it, because then you look at this. In both incidences, how close do you have to be when a guy's spraying a 100-round clip and he only gets through half of it, and you dome this guy? For real? You dome this guy with body armor on in 13 seconds while he's firing into a crowd of people. That is some incredible timing, unless you're somewhere close.
On scene
waiting, and you're waiting for it to go down and jump the gun a hair.
Yep, we've interviewed special forces guys who have said they could not fire at that rate with that proficiency themselves, and these are your top snipers.
Well, we're talking about the cops did this, dude. I don't know a cop that can shoot straight. No offense.
But when it comes to the sandbox, with the proficiency that this kid shot, they said they couldn't do it.
Yeah, there actually, you're exactly right. There was a whole video where the guy tried to do it in the amount of time before he was taken down, and he would have had to have been 98.5%.
Yeah, they keep getting that. They keep cutting them off.
He could do all this in less than 8 minutes or something, and it was some stupid thing. And the guy tried to do it, and he could only hit. And this guy was one of the biggest pros there was, and he could only hit like 73.6%, and it took him 11 and a half minutes. So like, it's not possible. When things aren't possible, you have to do the math.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Follow the two biggest things in history.
Possible.
Two biggest things that have proven every one of these theories for me is follow the money and prove the math. If you could go through either one of those things and something don't add up, it'll tell you that the stinks all over. And if the money, you'll follow it right to whoever's making money is where this stops.
Let's use this to go back to David Crowley and talk about that. He was getting the funding. His movie was very close to being released when he supposedly suicided himself. That made no sense to me. What about you, Greg?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and that's why they tried to actually hide that. They tried to hide the fact that David was actually moving forward. There were certain people in the Gray State quote unquote team that were trying to tell us that there was no deal. The deal had fallen through, blah, blah, blah. He was at his wit's end. He didn't see any future. And so he just one day decided to just kill his kid, kill his wife, and then kill himself. No, I'm sorry. Not going to happen. We have over 1,000 pages of documents, hundreds of photos. Let me ask you guys, and I'll answer this question. How many of those documents, how many of those pages, how many of those photos prove that David Crowley is guilty? I'll answer, it's zero. Zero.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, and I mean, I'm telling you, if you follow the money on this case, it'll lead back to the movie studios. And the whole deal where it fell through and it didn't fall through and all that, that was all propaganda pushed to try and create the narrative that he committed suicide, right? But I'm telling you, they're the ones that are responsible. They're the ones that were behind his death. They were shutting him up because he was getting to the right thing. And when he finally got his launch date, knew it was going through, the people that were behind on the money probably got threatened. And the people, if you're holding the bank a $30 million movie and you start getting the fact that you're going to get your head cut off and some Saudi oil people tell you better stop and you don't, next thing you know, you find your dog stuffed in the blender in the kitchen. And you go like, well, what do I do now? Well, you got to shut him up, and you're not going to shut him up because he was going to tell a story.
We did, I think, three-part series on this a while back. Were you there too, Jeff?
Yes.
I think you were. They got thousands of hits. People were interested in it. People are interested in movies like this. And let's talk about the anomaly or the fact that Greg and Dan Hennon and others who have freaking two brain cells to run together are questioning why the people who were supposedly his brothers, people that he served in the military with, people that he was making this movie with, are sticking to the narrative that they're going to remember his buddy as somebody who flipped out, killed himself, killed his wife, and killed his young daughter. That's the way they want to remember him, and they're not pushing this movie forward. These are questions that I believe Greg and Dan have tried to get answered, and they won't show up to even talk to him. Now, isn't that interesting?
Well, Eric, do you want them to come and execute your whole family and everybody? These guys aren't stupid. They see what just happened. Do you think that they want the same thing? They're running.
Right. I mean, that's what I was pretty much getting at. It's interesting that
it tells its own story.
Well, was this movie, because we only got a short trailer of it. That's all we got for this movie. How deep did he go? Did he go deep into geoengineering? Was this included? Was the chemtrailing? Was the spraying? Was the stratospheric atmosphere aerosols being dispersed into the air? Were they talking about that? Were they talking about solar radiation management? How far did they go? How far down the rabbit hole did he go? They're showing people getting chipped, the mark of the beast. So I would say they probably went that far. We'll probably never know, will we?
There is one photo of a Gray State, and hopefully it's still on their website. If not, we definitely have that. But it does show a bunch of people looking up, and in the sky you can clearly see trails. They are chemtrails there. So I do believe David was going to talk about that. I think he was on to a lot of the stuff that you guys are covering. And I try to follow your guys' shows constantly as much as I possibly can. But I do believe he was going to be right in line with that stuff. And he had a good opportunity because he was a soldier. And during that time, there was a lot of soldier worship that was going on because of the wars and all of that stuff. So I do believe David was a big threat because he was not falling in line. He was not staying silent. And so when they came out and said that David Crowley had PTSD, and I'm like, you guys worked with him for 4 years, and all of a sudden you're going to tell us he had PTSD? Why would you work with somebody like that? No, they're making it up. These guys are shameful. These are shameful people. And the problem is they're still out there with the whole Gray State project. They tried to move forward with it. And thankfully, thank God that it failed. Thank God that it failed, because it wouldn't have been David's vision.
No, absolutely not. And I pray tell, ask anyone out there to show me. There's not even conspiracy movies about spraying going on in the sky. This is a subject that just is not freaking broached in any movie capacity whatsoever, other than independent films that have come out by heroes like Dane Wigington. But other than that, there really is. And there's nothing. Show me a movie out there in Hollywood, anywhere, that deals with this. And that's just one aspect of what David Crowley was showing people: the chipping, the vaccinations, the Civil War, the freaking armed forces being turned against their own people, the people being snatched out of houses. And this was just in the trailer, being lined up and shot in the head. And this is somebody who was in the military, who did go over and serve. I believe he was in Afghanistan, correct, Greg?
He was in Afghanistan and Iraq. So he served in both.
Right.
So and he was right there in the heart of it.
I think most of us agree that the people who come back from the military, they're the most awake you can find, because they've been right there and seen what's going on.
Seen the workings of the machine.
Right.
That's right.
Bingo.
Well, what I notice is, what's strange about this is how after his death they all come out and say, oh, he had PTSD, he had PTSD, he had PTSD. Well, here's my thing. Sometimes it can develop later on, sometimes years, even decades after a traumatic experience, but the warning signs are there. And for 4 years, nobody noticed anything. The guys that he had served with, the guys that he had been closest to while he was over there, the guys who, look, I'm a vet. When you serve with somebody in the trenches, ducking bullets together, side by side, you know that guy better than you know your own siblings in some cases. You know how he thinks, you know what he ate for lunch, you know what he worries about at night, you know the name of his wife or his girlfriend, who he writes his letters to. You know all these little things, all these little telling things about this person. And all of these people who were his brothers in battle, closer to him in some ways than his own family, and nobody noticed a freaking thing. Sorry, I am trying to control my language here. We have to keep some standard of decency.
Somebody asked you. Yeah.
You know what I just noticed? And there's no way this is right. There's no way this is right. This cannot be right. Because are you guys seeing this? Can you see the screen share?
Yeah.
So if I'm on the right one, there's no way it only has 58,000.
No, that's a different one. No, that's
a different one.
Yeah. Many people have taken that and all that, and
either a hack job or a mirror.
Yeah, basically.
Hey, well, I got one for you, Eric. So today they released a.
Okay, here we go. Is this it? No, movie indeed.
It'll say Gray State as the person who did it. I just want to say one thing about the soldiers is I do believe there are many soldiers out there who served with David that have helped us, that can help us, and that will in the near future will be able to help us. But I think you're spot on. The people that served with him.
Are you guys seeing what I'm
Go ahead.
seeing here, guys? Holy crap! Sorry for interrupting you, Greg. But why would I type in Gray State trailer or promo? Would that not be the first thing to come up?
Filter channels. If you just go to,
does that make any sense though? I mean, Gray State.
Yeah.
Why would it bring us to?
They don't want you to see it.
Well, that's my point. Keep going, Greg. My bad. I spoke out loud.
No, you're totally right on that. And of course, that trailer that we're looking at now, a lot of that is for the documentary that came out later. Yeah. So that's the right one. If you go, I think that's the right one there.
Okay, I was like 58,000. Wait a minute. Last time I looked at it had over 2 million. Now it's over 3 million.
Yeah. 3 million. Now, the only problem with that is that the same people that claim David Crowley is guilty are the ones that are actually running that. And every time people watch that, they're making money off of it. So I'm glad that there's many people that are whatever, they're copying that video. I don't want my money, my views going to those people that think David Crowley is guilty.
They didn't even finish the movie they were working on with him.
No, David cut them out. They were not going to be part of it. And that was their big problem, was that David was moving forward and they were not moving with him. They were not going to be a part of it.
There's your motive.
There's your motive. You're right.
Absolutely, it is. You would think they would pick up the ball and finish out the movie in memory of him.
They had tried, but how do you do that?
I've seen.
How do you say somebody is guilty, but hey, we're going to make this movie because of money?
Didn't they say it was going to be completed a few years ago, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. It was almost done when he died.
Danny Mason, was that his name?
Yeah, Danny Mason tried to actually move forward with it. He tried to pitch it to the same people that David was actually working with, and thankfully they said no, because it was tainted. By that time, nobody's going to touch this. You know what I mean?
Offered to talk to him and others that were close to him, haven't you? You tried to reach out and actually talk to them.
I was supposed to debate him, and I don't know whatever happened. He just kind of fell off. He probably realized that he would lose, because there's no way that anybody can stand there toe to toe with me and tell me and explain to me why David Crowley is guilty. Can't happen.
You've had like the next door neighbor just completely take for some odd reason, an way overactive interest in this and come onto the page. And I what was her name?
Judy. Judy Prochnow. Yeah. She's my biggest fan, apparently.
That have happened, and with the person's clearly, she's nuts. She's freaking squirreled. She's buck nutty, and this is who they have defending, and that's like a lot of the families when we look at the Sandbox. Is that
same thing?
Freaking right. So many anomalies there too. We could talk all night about that, but I know. How much time do you have, Greg?
I could probably go another 20, 30 minutes.
Okay, the break's coming up in about 6 minutes here, so let's get a little bit more in that you want to concerning this case. Anything new that's come up, because you know that I've followed this pretty closely. I'm not even looking at Cliff Notes right now. That's when you know a case pretty well. Go for it.
Well, we did have a private investigator, and I was hoping Dan Hannon could have joined this. I think because of his schedule, he wasn't able to. But we hired a private investigator. The private investigator turned out to just be another person who really was not going to do any real research. So at this point, I am strongly thinking about hiring a real private investigator to actually investigate this case, not to just read some of these documents and to just think whatever the cops say that is true. We need somebody who can help us get the case reopened. That is the main goal here. That is my main goal here, to clear David's name. Phase 2 is to figure out who done it, blah, blah, blah. But phase 1 is really to get the case reopened, renamed, so that and here's the craziest thing. Even in these documents, there's nowhere that says David Crowley is guilty. Here is what they say why David Crowley is guilty, because they couldn't find any evidence that anybody else did this. That's not good enough. And if people know that, the more people know that, the more people start thinking the same way we are thinking, that there is no way that David Crowley is guilty. And if there is, then show us the evidence. And if you don't have it, then just say that, and don't accuse a United States soldier who served in two of the most vicious wars ever in our lifetime. Don't accuse him of something like this. It's treason. It's
Police were pretty quick to call this case a murder-suicide, weren't they?
within 24 hours.
In 24 hours. That's
Within
pretty
24
quick.
hours.
We have a question. Who made the trailer after he died? It says credits show A&E Indie Films. Oh, that's because hold on, let me put this one in there. The
That's a
official
documentary. Yeah, that's the trailer for Eric Nelson's documentary that Dan and I were both in. We told them everything. They put us in there for like 30 seconds. They did not want to hear about a bullet hole that the police missed. We have all of these people inside of David Crowley's house. Nobody looks up and sees a bullet hole above their head. They have to learn about it 1 month later because somebody tells them. They don't find a bullet that rolls out of the carpet that is tied to David's daughter until 2 days after these bodies are found because somebody tells them that there is a bullet there. We got problems. But really, they got problems. We got them right where we want them.
Some thoughts, Jeff and Billy Talon, before we go to break. We got about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, the tree you're climbing has got a whole lot of ugly people on the other side that don't want this to come out. And I guarantee you, if you find out it's probably of Saudi descent that probably sent the message. And when they send a message, they execute your whole family. So just that's when you follow the money. What I found out when I was looking at it, a couple years back, is that it looked like it was Saudi descent, and it looked like it was all based on releasing information that they didn't want to go out.
Yeah. The MO matches with Arab and traditional Arab and Caucasian vendetta methods. This is the same kind of stuff that we used to see. Like I said earlier, it's the same kind of stuff I used to see with the Kadrovci, the secret police back home under the occupation. And this is one of the more notable cases back home was a journalist named Anna Politkovskaya, and she had done a great deal to illuminate evidence of Russian human rights abuses in the Caucasus during the wars. And one day, coming home from her work, she went into the elevator to her apartment, and apparently, somehow, while she was
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And welcome back to the Sentinel's Truth on Revolution Radio, listener supported completely. Keep free alternative media alive where we can still say words as they're meant to be said and not try to use tricky words to avoid the algorithms. We're talking about false flags. We're talking about David Crowley in Gray State. We're talking about the sandbox. And we're also talking about whatever Greg would like to talk about because he's only got about 20 minutes with us. So I want you to lead the way, Greg.
Well, I would just hope that people who have never heard about David Crowley, if you've never heard about this case, please take some time to look into this. Look at the photos, look at these documents, and come to your own conclusion, not based on what I say, not based on what anybody else says. But I have faith. People look at the documents, look at these photos. Once you start going down this rabbit hole, you will clearly see that there is no way that anybody could ever prove that David Crowley is guilty. So why are so many people acting like he is? And it's very important that this is just one person. I've never seen a case like this. I don't know if you guys have ever seen anything like this. We've looked at a lot of other cases. There are some that are similar, but nothing ever like this that I've seen. I don't know. Have you guys seen anything similar to this? Maybe Philip Marshall or something?
No, I've seen a couple of them actually, but they were always on. What was that? Not Believe It or Not, but the one that had Stacy Keach narrating. I can't think of it. They used to talk about, the intertwisted spouse that went off and did some stuff like this, and they made it look like something else, or the evil friend. Like, there's always 50 other ways you could twist this one. But the problem that you got is, it's just so nasty and such a mark that it kind of speaks for itself. It's kind of hard to put that much flair when you talk about kids, everything. I mean, just the whole thing left the way it is. It's done intentionally like that. That's not an accident.
That's a message.
That's a message.
What's the message?
The message is leave it alone.
Leave it alone or you're next.
Right. That's the message. That's what they're saying. I mean, those people talk real plain.
Same as the Calderovsi.
I've been a tow truck driver for 30 years, done repo work all my life. I know those people. Okay? Those people, when they send a message, they hit your whole family like that, everybody else walks away from it because everybody else gets scared.
It's an albatross.
Right. It's like you've done pinned a target on your back. If you want to keep moving with that target, you're going to, I'm just telling you, that's a plain as day marker. There was no ands, ifs, or buts. The first second I saw it, I was like, they executed him and they left the message. Don't come down this road. You're next. You hit a nerve, and the dentist is there to take the nerve out. That's it. That's all it came down to. I mean, this is literally the mafia-style hit because of money and touchy information being passed to the wrong person. Somebody took it offensively and said, just shut it down.
What do you guys think about David putting the Freemason garb in his 2012 trailer? Do you think that might have put a target on him?
The whole thing's a target. The problem is which part of it was the target. See, the two things that you have to look at, and I've said this a billion times, go find where the money sources were coming from and who they led to. And the second thing to do with that is go watch, find whatever parts of the movie and do the research. There is a nerve in that movie somewhere that somebody didn't want to get seen. It's kind of like when you're watching the movie and all of a sudden you find out like the senator gets killed and it gets caught on video, and then they have to go around and find the last copy before anybody sees it, because if they nail you. When you're dealing with this kind of stuff, you're talking about $30 million. They kill kids on the corner for a pair of Nikes. MS-13 will hit somebody for $500 and put another tattoo on their shoulder. It's marked in different currency now. You don't need anything to whack a family. All you have to do is hire a couple MS-13 guys, drop them $5,000. They'll hit your whole family, burn the house, and rape the dog. I mean, and do it on video. And go to jail for it. Like, it's just crazy, the stuff that happens now. They'll do it on video and go to jail and take the full time so that their family's set for life in another way. Like, it's just crazy.
And none of us are saying that the dog was raped, by the way. Just
it was a joke. It wasn't a joke. It was just a statement of fact. They will absolutely do anything to make it stick.
Oh, did you hear Jeff said they raped the dog? And these people are nuts. They said the dog got raped the whole time. It was gang raped. And
well,
when just the way these people twist stuff, man, it's crazy. Okay, my bad.
In Canada, it would be legal.
Yeah, it's legal in Canada now.
Say it again.
If it was done in Canada, it would be legal.
As long as it's alive. As long as it's alive.
Is that right? Please tell me that's not true.
They just passed it. As long as it's alive. Now, if it's dead, it's bestiality.
You've got to be kidding me.
Or it's necrophilia. Sorry. Necrobestiality.
What? Okay. What?
What's going on in Canada?
Oh, whoa, really?
They're obviously letting
background.
Well, I mean,
Trudeau.
No. Yeah.
Trudeau, that necked.
Trudeau. Yeah, okay. That explains it all. That's all you had to say.
Trudeau.
The phone party geek.
What the hell?
Hey, Sawyer, did you hear the latest? I got one for you. I got to throw at you real quick. So, It came out today. The Smithsonian Institute announced that chemtrail spraying is real, and the head of chemtrails is Bill and Melinda Gates and the Gates Foundation with 15
how nice.
with 15 countries backing them through their efforts of vaccination. They have united with them, and now they're going to start spilling the truth.
Hi, everyone. This is Catherine Michelle, and I'm here with Greg Fernandez Jr. and Sophia, and we are here to discuss more about the telephone records of David and Kamel, as well as the search warrants and items that were removed from the home. Tonight, we're going to start off with the phone records, and we're going to start with David's because this is still a little confusing. And if anyone out there works for or has worked for a mobile phone company and can make sure that we're understanding what we're reading, please leave comments, jump in, send us emails or whatever. The main point that we're finding out here with David's records is, as we know, he made his last phone call on November 18th. And that one I still find suspicious because the only other call before that was November 3rd. So between the 3rd and the 18th, there was nothing else done. I'm trying to pull up my records here so we can all be on the same page.
Okay.
I have one laptop open and the other laptop open, and for whatever reason, one doesn't want to cooperate with me. Okay, that's his text log. Now let me go to his phone records. Yeah, okay. So what are the interesting things that you have found and have noticed, Sophia?
Well, I was looking at cell location, which is on the, help me out here, the right, far right side.
Yep.
And I noticed that after a specific date, it doesn't ever change. And the coordinates don't change, which means that he never left the area for that one cell tower. And it was pinging even after they passed away. So that would have to be near his neighborhood where his phone was. So I'm looking at, I guess, the 18th when he supposedly made that last phone call. After that, the location never changes, which would be November 18th, November 20th, on down. He never takes his phone out of the house. If we go by the narrative, the story, they talk about how Kamel and David were seen at Rainey's school the last day of school in December. He didn't take his cell phone there because it never left that neighborhood, or it never left the area where the cell tower was.
But these are just calls, though, right? These are just where the cell location was, not necessarily.
Well, the text messages also. It doesn't change after a specific date.
Which is, yeah, that's really interesting that the phone would remain right there. Because you're right, anybody who's going to be calling or texting, it's still going to be pinging off of that, the location of where it's at. And if it remains, obviously we're going to assume, and it is an assumption, but it's a pretty good assumption, the phone was left in the house because that's where the police found it the entire time. And so the pinging for the text messages and the calls that were coming in, even in January, that cell location is exactly the same as what it was before when he was making his phone calls, correct?
Yes, it is. And it's narrowed down to Minnesota and Apple Valley, but I wasn't able to get the exact location because for some reason my Google Earth was just not working for me in regards to that. But everything that I have learned in regards to cell phone and ping, anytime, like as you said, anytime a text message comes in or a phone call comes in, it will ping off of that cell tower. And that's exactly what the police in their search warrants requested. They wanted the information of where these phones were at because they were looking to see if a murder was planned. I mean, it says it right there in the search warrants. The wording, and I'll go get it.
Well, that's interesting. I haven't read the search warrants yet, so I'm way behind on that. But that is definitely some interesting wording.
I'm trying to find the exact area data store.
Do you know what page?
Cell tower dump. Registered with AT&T towers in a certain location at a certain time. AT&T calls this a cell tower dump. And they are looking for the longitude and the latitude for that cell tower.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Greg just pulled it up and it says cell tower location information. Yeah.
The geographical area of the crime. If you go a little bit further up, when cell phones make a call or receive a call, they will register with the cell tower in a geographical area of the crime.
Now, is that on the search warrant, or where are you reading that from? Okay,
that's on the search warrant.
Is that's before or that's after?
It's in the same paragraph. About 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences down.
Trying to find. Do you know what page that would be on?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back because I had sent you a screenshot of that, and that's what I was reading from was the screenshot.
I'm trying to, but it does say cell tower dump. That's what it specifically says.
Yes.
All right, I'm just gonna look that up.
I'll get the specific page for you.
I'm just gonna keep doing cell tower.
And it's all the same document.
All the same. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see, 28. I think it is 29. Page 29 of the search warrants. At least that was the first one that I came across. But it should be the same for all the rest of the phone numbers.
Okay, because, yeah, that page starts with the facts tending to establish your affiant, Michael, whatever, has been a licensed police officer. That's page 29 that Greg has. Is that the same one?
28, 29. Yes. And it is after your affidavit.
There's AT&T.
Here we go.
Oh, there you go.
When your affidavit is aware.
Yeah, your affiant is aware through. Don't go too fast. Hold it.
Sorry.
Training.
Sorry.
Yeah,
should I go back a little bit?
No. You're right there. You're perfect. Through training and experience that individuals frequently call and/or text message each other regarding criminal activity during and/or after an event has occurred. Your affiant is also aware that a high percentage of the population regularly uses and carries a cellular phone with them during their day-to-day activities. And whoever typed this up, day-to-day is hyphenated. When cell phones make a call, it drives me crazy. When cell phones make a call or receive a call, they will register with the cellular tower in the geographical area of the crime. Your affiant is aware that there are many cell phone providers and resellers of cell phones. Your affiant is aware that all of these cell calls all of these cell phones operate on 4 major cell phone networks in the state of Minnesota. These networks are Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, and AT&T. Your affiant has spoken to AT&T. AT&T did tell your affiant that they were able to provide law enforcement records of all cell phones that registered with AT&T towers in a certain location at a certain time. AT&T calls this a cellular tower dump. Wow. So they were looking exactly for that, and when they found that information that the cell phones didn't move, and especially, since they were subpoenaing that specific thing and saying that's what they were looking for, and then the phone records show that his cell phone didn't leave that geographical area of his home since November, and they didn't question that? I mean, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that they looked at the records. I mean...
Well, yeah, and I agree with you, because when we're looking at these phone records, and this is something where anybody out there, if you can help us understand, but if I'm reading this wrong, please correct us. But on the screen right now, you will see item number 60, and then you see 2 phone numbers, one with the 00 next to it. And then item number 61, the same call but written differently, but with an F next to it. So what I am reading this as per, not as per, because that is not proper grammar. What I am reading this is per the instructions that AT&T gave us, stating that the one with the 00 is the originating phone. So the 507 number, we'll just say 0434, then dialed 4890, and then that number terminated at 4003. Oh no, I'm sorry. It forwarded to 4003, then terminated at the 4890. Down below you have the 4003 forwards to, yeah, somebody please help us understand this. But anyway, there are a lot of phone calls. Yes, could you highlight? Thank you. That works. Yeah, with all of these, you will see the number that ends in 4003 associated with a lot of the phone calls between David, Kamel, and Kate Crowley. Now, why is that? Why are a lot of the phone calls being forwarded through or to this number? Doesn't make any sense. We can't figure out, you know, why the number, why the forwarding, and the person associated with this, what was their connection to the Crowley family? Because, you know, as you see Greg highlighting these right here, there are a lot of calls associated with this.
Are you there?
Did we lose Catherine? I think we might have lost her. I think we lost her there. Can you still hear me? Test 1, 2.
Okay, yeah, we're back. I had a temporary glitch with my power, but we're back now. And we were talking about the 4003 number that is associated with both David and Kamel. This number is used as a forwarding number. This number is called, and this number...
Could it be a voicemail?
No.
See, here's the reason why I think it might be, is because I haven't found anywhere where a call is made from this number. Everything is cycling through it, and this number is eating it up and spitting it out. But I haven't seen anywhere where this number is making a call. So if you guys have that, if you can find that.
I do, and let me see if I can, it might take me a second to find it. I can't remember if it was on David's or Kamel's. Oh boy, yeah, this will take me a second, but yeah, sitting in the dark all of a sudden kind of threw me for a loop.
Do you have candles or something going on over there?
Well, I didn't have any lit. I was just sitting at the table. Next thing I know, it's like pitch black, and I'm like, what happened to my electricity?
But it's back now.
Yes, it's all back now. Thank goodness. Oh. And do you think the dog noticed? No. He just like going, okay, this is cool. Okay, let me see. Where is that? I could have sworn.
I didn't see it on David's. I'm going to look at Kamel's. But I think it's just a forwarding number, which does lead me to think it's...
Okay, you know what? Yeah, okay, you were right. I thought for sure I had typed it in as a number that actually made a call at one point, but I am not finding that now, not even where I typed. So, yeah, it was always forwarded through or to that number. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay.
If you're looking at this page right here, page 21 of 30 of Kamel's newest number, one thing I was trying to understand is the cell location. Why is there so much data here? It's a lot of data.
Yeah. Sophia?
Well, when I was talking with Craig in regards to it, I had assumed because they had their calls or one phone number forwarded to the other phone number that they were leaving one phone at home. So it was pinging off of one, forwarding, and being picked up on the receiving call or the receiving phone. But when we looked at the search warrants, they only took 2 cell phones out of that house. So that theory was blown out the window. So I have no answer for it. None.
Well, it's a call, cause it's a call from Kamel's number to this 4346, whatever that is, whoever that is. That's probably on your list, Catherine. 12-3.
Yeah, I'm looking. Okay, where are we at? I was looking at my other computer. I'm sorry. 4346. Who's 4346?
Yeah, I don't think
and
it's
on page 18 again.
I'm looking at your spreadsheet. That's on page. Yeah.
Because I have all of their names on there. I looked up every single phone number and associated it with a person that they knew. So
this one I don't. Yeah, well, I'm looking at that. Oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong.
Oh, keep going. Go to the next. No, go to the next one over. It'll tell you the name.
Okay.
Next column to the right.
Okay.
That's the Banfield Pet. Yeah.
They're calling the pet hospital.
Yeah.
On 12-3. And there's several of those, right?
There are a couple of them. Yep.
And that was with Kamel's phone?
Yes.
Thank you.
And if I remember correctly, I do believe that Banfield did call her back too as well. I think she had to call him and leave a message, and then they called her. Well, I'm assuming left a message, and then they called her back.
So on 12-5, I'm going to look at the 12-5 record here. Okay, that's her second call. Should be another one. Ain't not there.
Then maybe
That's a long call, 4 minutes.
To the Banfield, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
And the other one is 9 minutes.
Yeah.
22 seconds.
And I find it interesting the timing of that phone call, the beginning of December. You know. I mean, did anybody say anything about Paleo being sick? Because that's where I take my pets, is to Banfield here, when they're a good vet place to go. They have great doctors and everything, great veterinarians. So, I mean, was something wrong with Paleo? Did anybody in the family ever mention anything?
That's a long call.
Yeah, 13 minutes total to a veterinarian.
And then another on, oh, this might be a different one here.
Is it possible she just could have been on hold?
Well,
Are they that good?
I mean,
They keep
well,
everybody on hold? Probably.
I'm just playing devil's advocate on this one.
Well, it's a possibility.
You're right. It is a long call.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting. In December, a call is made to Banfield, and then shortly after that, they disappear or are killed or whatever it is that happened to them at this point. Because these phone records are leaving me totally confused because, you know, with David's last phone call being November 18th or the 3rd, depending on which way you want to look at it, and then his mom is calling him constantly several times after that, but he makes, you know, no phone calls. And it's like, why? And his cell phone remains in the same place. It doesn't move. And you said, what time was that? Was November what?
I believe 18th. I need to go back and click on his records.
Okay.
I'm going right now.
So a lot of that is like all about the same time. All communication from David ceases in November. And the police didn't see a problem with that, or at least I see nothing in any of the records where they question that silence. You know, that's 2 full months before the bodies were found. That's a long time.
I don't believe it changes after, I gotta scroll back. 11/20/2014. And I'm just scrolling down to double check.
Okay, so you do show some movement between the 18th, which is still the same time frame. That's still, you know, where he basically is missing incognito, whatever you want to call it, in November, not at Christmas time, which is what they're trying to say, or New Year's. It's like a whole month before that.
Well, what about this one on Thanksgiving, right? This is
No, there are no phone calls, texts, or anything on Thanksgiving at all. To nobody.
12/26/2014.
Let me see. Find 12/26. Are you looking at David's?
David's, yeah.
Okay, let me go there. I'll pull down here.
So at 11/26/2014, not sure, it's only a 58-second call. It looks like it's from David to 4781.
Yeah, and the reason why let's see, hold on, who's it to? I'm trying to find out. Oh yeah, to Michael Moran, the muffler shop. But I know Camille was talking to them. Let me see.
And that's why I kind of think the other thing that I also think is that David was using both phones. He was controlling both phones. Just because a phone was in Camille's name doesn't mean that she was actually using that phone. Now, that's until you look at the actual records of her phone calls and who she's calling, right? And then there are several times where you can see that she's calling people that she knows, or that phone number is calling people that she knows, not necessarily people that David knows.
Right, and that's what I found to be true for the vast majority of her calls. So I would not, by looking at her phone records, I would not assume David had any kind of control over her phone. She had it. She used it. She took it with her. Because, you know, she made a lot of calls to her friends, especially, you know, one in particular, and several to clients, and I don't want to put their names out there because they might not want their name out there, and I have them on the spreadsheet, but yeah. Can you go down to on the next page, Greg? Because this one stops at 12:16. I want to see the 12. Oh, what happened at 12:26?
For David's?
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Maybe my screen just wasn't showing it. Maybe because right now they're in January. So now that those are texts, go back up.
those are texts, yeah.
Yeah.
So you want these, but these start. This
Okay,
is
yeah,
what it's
wait.
right at the bottom.
Yeah, see,
No.
that stops at number 59 on 12/16,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next one starts in January.
Right, but on Kamel's newest one is where you probably what you're looking for, right? This 12:15, and then the 12:15. Let's go. No, and then 1:08.
Yeah, because
It's an old
her
one.
cell phone tends to go silent more toward the middle to the end of December, where she stops communication. But David is in November, so it's like there's a whole month difference. And most of the phone calls that Kamel has on her phone, other than the muffler shop, are either to people I'm assuming are her clients or to her friend. Everything else, I mean, I see 1, 2, 3 calls to a muffler shop, and one number which I couldn't trace at all, so I figured it was probably a spam, because people get spam calls on their cell phones. And then the school, and then the rest looks like clients. So yeah, she goes silent relatively quickly. December 15th, I think, or
Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's the last one.
That's the call I show as well. And then the 8th.
And then it goes to 1:08.
Yeah, then the 8th is when the school starts trying to call her client then starts to try to call her, the school tries to call her. So the school actually does make several phone calls. I thought they didn't call at all, but they actually made 1, 2, 3, it looks like 4 separate phone calls. 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 separate phone calls to the family. Why they didn't come out there, I have no idea, but at least I felt better knowing that they at least called.
Oh yeah, definitely. And she had just started too, right? She was only a couple months in from September, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because usually after Christmas break is when they start the second semester. However they do it anymore. But yeah, usually school starts to Christmas break, and then after Christmas break to the end of the year is how we used to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. What if there was a call? Remember that incident that happened in October, I believe it was, with Rania?
I do not see.
There should be a call. Should be a call to the school, from the school, to one of these phones.
I think it was the week of the 16th, wasn't it?
Oh,
a lot happened that week.
Okay, I only had the phone records for her new phone. That would have been on her old phone. Do you have those, Greg?
I think it would have still been on there because it's.
Because you see right here. Yeah, the 22nd, so it's not on there. Yeah, okay. If it was the 16th, it would be on her previous phone.
Okay.
Because I did not get a chance to log all those yet on the spreadsheet.
Okay, so here's Kamel's old phone. 10-1, 10-9. What's the number that we're looking for?
We are looking for.
Should be an originating number.
A 5183, ending in 5183, 303 5183.
Okay. 5183.
Okay, keep going. Okay, I don't see it. I don't see one there on the 16th, 17th, or the 18th.
Yeah, I mean, it could have came from a different line. Every teacher probably has their own number, too, so.
It would have been the same area code, though, which is 952, and I'm not seeing a 952. Oh, wait, here we go on, okay, that's the 27th, which we have.
There's a 952. Yeah, this one here.
Let me double check.
Okay.
95. Oh wait, that's a 0113 952 239.
And it's to Kamel.
Yes, I don't know whose number that is. But anyway, I mean, anyone out there, if you are looking at this and you can explain to us what these, how they are logging these calls with the 00 and then the F underneath, and then the two numbers and the terminating number. You have two originating numbers, one terminating number. Please explain that, because this is kind of where things get real mucky. And once we get this figured out for sure, I think it's going to answer a whole lot of questions. Is there anything else you guys want to say about this?
I always thought it was originated number and it was forwarded, but with that other number in there, it's just odd, especially since it's showing up on David's and it's showing at random times with Kate too. So
right, and that's what I found really interesting, is like, why is this number associated with all three of them? And it's ridiculous. It should not be.
So where is it? Where do we see Kate's number? 0434.
She is
on David's. Okay, I see it. I see it down here.
Yes.
Okay. So let's look at that. So she's calling David at 2:08 a.m. All of this, so 12 and 13 are the same, part of the same call.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I find the time frame of when these phone calls are made too really weird. Why are they calling at such late hours? The hours of these phone calls, I don't know, they're questionable. Like, who calls their family at 2:08 in the morning? Well, obviously Kate did, but why?
Probably me.
Like me.
Yeah.
Well, the story that was told on the internet was that Kate was an alcoholic and she was calling David and Camille at really weird hours. I believe that's in the email that between Camille and Allison.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Camille wasn't picking up, or Camille or David were picking up Kate's numbers anymore whenever she called.
Yeah, and I looked at that of when that complaint was made versus when the calls were actually made by Kate, and they didn't quite match up either. I'm trying to look at my notes right now. My dog is being a pain in the hiney side again.
So I guess the next logical question is, what from the narrative is true?
Yeah, I would really like to know that. Let's see. Yeah, because here where they're saying where Dan Sr. says on November 27th, I text them Happy Thanksgiving, no response. And we see right here on the phone records and on the text records, no such thing was done. And let me see, where's that part about the mom?
It is in the. It's also in the redacted, correct?
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure if I printed out that particular page. But I find it interesting too that both Dan Sr. and his notes, as well as Allison, make the comments of "We're wondering if you were dead." It's like, really?
So is it really bad writing for foreshadowing, or are they all psychic in the family?
Right? Right?
I mean, I'm not trying to be snide. It's just...
Oh, Greg, can you stop there real quick on the one?
Up here?
Right here. Yes, right there. It's perfect. Okay, because you see the date, item number 50, 11/21. And you see this is really when Kate starts to make a lot of the phone calls, which is on the 21st. Allison wrote this email to Camille on the 20th, saying, Mom is weeping and convinced that you're dead because you're not answering the phone and she's trying to get a hold of you. Now, she wrote that a day before the phone calls kicked in. How did she know? How'd she know that was going to happen? So that's what I found. Yeah, that's what I found interesting as far as that goes, because when you start comparing what they give as a timeline and their emails with the timelines on it, the dates and the times, and they don't match the phone records, something is wrong.
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Yep, so keep that in mind, everybody. Allison wrote an email to Kamel on November 20th, Thursday, November 20th at 2:01 in the afternoon. And she's talking about how their mom is constantly calling and crying because she thinks they're dead, and why are they not answering her. But when you look at the phone records, you don't see Kate starting to call until November 21st, the next day after the email is written. That is interesting. Do you want to head over to the search warrants now? Because we have a lot to cover there.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Flip into that document.
And you two take it over, because this I have not read. I want to learn from you what you found out.
I'm still going through it. I mainly was going over for the phones because I was trying to figure out exactly what the officers were requesting, what they legally could search for. And it turns out they could search for deleted information, not only messages for the phone, text messages, voicemails, information like that. But for the computers, too, they could look at social media and like instant messenger, Facebook Messenger, that kind of thing. They could look for deleted messages through there too. Their search warrant covered the gambit, basically.
Covered everything.
So, for anybody saying, oh, what if David deleted these messages or deleted these call logs, the police would have been able to find it because their search warrants were covering this information. They would have dug in there. They had the programs to look for this information. I just don't believe that the calls were made. They put proof in there of the messages that, for instance, we were just going over with Kamel and Allison. They put that proof in there. They put text messages in there. Where's the message that supposedly happened for the pot that happened on December 19th or 16th, excuse me? We just don't have that information. It was never put into the police report.
Yeah.
The call,
that is a big thing.
It's a problem.
Well,
and when we start seeing all these other issues rising up, like the calls not lining up with what's said in the police report, it's a problem.
I do think those calls were actually made. I do. But now you're forcing me to find the proof, though.
You're always asking us for proof.
That's right.
But
now I gotta go.
I welcome you to find it, please, because Catherine and I have been racking our brains on this one.
I'll find it. I think it's out there. I don't think they would say that. I mean, I don't understand where they got that unless it was from an informant or something, why they would just say that all of a sudden, hey, we were told this, okay, well, they go and they find that it's true. If these records, if the phone records that we have don't show that those calls ever took place, but you have people that are saying that the calls did, you have officers that follow up on it, and the calls, the person that they say made the call, it turns out to be true, then that to me is a strong indication that did happen.
Well, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My computer went out again for a second. But when the phone records, you have to, I don't care what people say, You can have 30 people telling me that they saw the moon turn green, but that doesn't mean that the moon turned green. And they're saying that David called Chris Peck in December looking for pot. The only phone call that I found on all of the entire phone records was made to Chris Peck on November 18th, the last call that David made, was the one and only phone call to Chris Peck. And then I do believe Chris Peck sent a text to David. Let me double check that.
Saying, do you have any, something like that, right?
On November 12th.
Oh, okay.
And yes, that was it. There was a text on November 12th from Chris Peck to David, and then David made a call to Chris Peck on the 18th of November. And that's it. That is the only communication I found between those two in 3 months of phone records. So when people say he was his pot dealer, I don't think so. The people I know who buy pot don't buy it once every 3 months.
I mean, you have Chris Peck who's saying that.
I don't care, Chris Peck. I will take him on. No. Because according to the phone records, that didn't happen. And what? He must have some really lousy stuff if somebody's only going to buy from him once in 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
Okay, and to also rebuke the people who are saying that there was a burner phone. The search warrants don't cover burner phones. They only cover 2 cell phones that were taken from that house. So there were no burner phones found at the house at all. I need to get that in there because a lot of people have suggested, well, what if there was a burner?
Yeah,
or a prepaid?
Yeah, and I don't understand that at all. I mean, they had enough phone numbers they had to deal with. They're going to add 2 more. They had 4, and now they're going to do 6. That just didn't make sense.
Well, it's possible that the dog ate that too.
There you go. Problem solved.
There you go.
We're just going to blame everything on poor Paleo here.
Why not?
Yes, if he could digest all those bones, he could digest metal.
Yeah. He probably cleaned up some of the crime scene too.
There you go. That's it. It didn't leave any paw prints. He was perfect. He's a great little house cleaner.
Yeah, he ate the gloves and everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, this poor dog. He's got an iron stomach.
He does. And he was thin and dehydrated after all that eating. It must have been the cell phone. That's what did it.
Yeah, and I would say...
I hope everybody can see how ludicrous this is, right?
It really is. It really is. But we can see what they're asking for. We can see what these search warrants say, and one of the things that was very important, I thought, was these writing documents. They're looking for anything. You know, they're supposed to go through all of this stuff, anything, everything that's there. And unless somebody is going to say, I mean, and we have that, people are saying that the police miss things, that the investigators miss things. I have a hard time going with that too.
Well, I just don't believe that either. I mean,
yeah, and
they took out everything.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
But right here where it says they're looking for writings, documents, to identify motive, preparation, or mindset of the suspect at the time of the shooting.
Right.
Now, what did the detective find when he did all of his investigation of all the computers and all the writings? No motive whatsoever. Nothing.
That's it.
And he didn't find any imaginary journals either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, once again, not trying to be snarky. It's just the truth.
Yeah,
There's no proof.
And I think that's why it's so important for people to look at these 87 pages here, and you can see exactly what they were searching for. You can compare that to what they found. You can compare that to what they took in and to what they did with it. And you can see how much data that they went through. They spent a lot of time going through this data. No motive. Nothing there. Nothing there to show them why David Crowley is guilty. That doesn't mean that people can take these things and try to create a motive, try to act like they know better than what the cops do. and create some type of motive, but that doesn't make it true. And so I think it's very important for people to really go through this before we start talking about what the police missed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they missed anything except for the bullet hole and a bullet that rolled out. But they found those 2 days later. I don't believe that they missed any writing or anything on the computers. All of this stuff here, I don't believe that they missed anything that gave them motive. Even what they missed, the 2 bullets that they missed did not give them motive either.
No, because they still can't even tie that really to anybody.
Right.
Right. It has a little bit of David's DNA, but definitely not his blood, brain matter, or hair. So that they can't even prove that it was the bullet that killed him. So they basically, at this point, they do not have the bullet that killed David. And if he shot himself, it would have been there.
That's right.
And, with everything that they pulled, I mean, they're very detailed in what they're looking for here in these warrants.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one detective who actually specializes in that, so he would know what he was doing. And I always say his name wrong, so I'll call him Detective K, because I butcher his name. But, he spent a lot of time going through all of these devices, and he came back and said, I can find no motive. So what led them down the path with no motive? David goes silent in November. Kamel goes silent in December. Bodies are found in January. No motive. And people who are saying that they contacted them is not backed up by any of the data that they have or any of the records that were provided to them. Why did they not continue to go forward with that?
And that's when you have to ask yourself, is it a cover-up? Was this all staged? I mean, what's really going on here?
Yeah.
Why weren't just logical questions asked about this case?
Yeah, and you said a mouthful, because I really don't see any questions being asked whatsoever. They did go to the neighbors and did the little, oh, did you hear anything type of thing. It's kind of, and I see that as a CYA. And did you talk to the neighbors? Well, yeah, but they didn't even really follow up with any of that. It took them, when they couldn't get a hold of, the neighbor was Brett Millay. And so they just kind of let that roll off until they finally found him one day. And it's like, there was no effort put into this case at all.
So they ruled it a murder-suicide within 2 hours, basically. Is that what we...
No. They're not ruling it a murder-suicide.
Okay, so I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
No. We're going to go back and forth on this, Sophia.
No.
Greg has one report that goes within 2 weeks.
I have the police report. I have the secret document, yeah.
Yeah, but again, the reporter who the police never countered said that the police chief himself said within 2 hours. Because it was that report was actually written very shortly after the murders. So it definitely was not written 2 weeks after the murders. So I'm going to go with the 2 hours. So they're,
but the detectives didn't even arrive at the crime scene.
But
until after 2 hours.
When you look at those news reports, we have to look at how often they actually update the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they could have updated it later. It could have started out where it's just, we don't know what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And then later on it was updated to where, they think it's a double murder-suicide, which they publicly stated 1 day later. But that, just because they stated that in public, doesn't mean that that was the first time that they thought about it. So sometime between whenever they find the bodies and whenever it's made public, we don't really know exactly when they said, okay, we think this is a double murder-suicide, the public is not at risk, everybody's safe, blah, blah, blah. It would be very important to get some clarification on that. But that's treating it as a double murder-suicide, not concluding it as a double murder-suicide.
Well, you think that there's a difference.
I do.
But most of the time there is not.
I do. I think there is a difference.
Again, you would think so, but that doesn't always mean that there is. There are times when they decide, and it's sad, and most people don't want to hear it or believe it, but they predetermine what the case is going to be before they even step inside the scene.
And there is a lot of proof that would help back that up. Mm-hmm. I definitely see that. There is a lot that would show, well, if they really wanted to do a thorough investigation, they would have done this, they would have done that, they would have looked up, saw the bullet hole, blah, 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 all that. That's another reason, that's another reason to think that how quickly they came to this theory and they started moving with that theory. I think once they go ahead.
No, and then they just didn't ask any other questions in regards to this case. The phone records, the DNA, everything else that we've come across. They didn't look any deeper. And that's very, very disheartening.
Well, I would say we don't have any documentation that shows that they didn't look deeper. I'm not necessarily certain 100% that they didn't. At some point, they have to look for motive from other people, right? I mean, in their conclusion, their whole conclusion is based around this fact, their theory, their opinion, that because they couldn't find that anybody else could have done this, that David Crowley must be guilty. That would lead me, first of all, to think that they did something. They were looking at the possibility that maybe somebody else was involved, right? No?
We have unknown DNA at the crime scene. We have a slider that's open, well, partially cracked. We have a phone that never left after November 20th. I mean,
yeah, you have three dead bodies. Mm-hmm. You don't walk into a house and think one of those dead bodies killed the other two dead bodies, looking the way that those dead bodies did.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they came out and said that the public is not in danger, and then they just conducted the case from then on as a murder-suicide, and then didn't ask deeper questions as to who this unknown DNA was for.
Right.
Or why his phone never left, or, I mean, just, there's so many questions.
Yeah, well, and let's go back to, when they went silent. Mm-hmm. They didn't even look at that, and it's so blatant on his phone records. You can't miss it. But here, yeah, I'm looking at this news article again, and it was published originally January 19th, but updated on November 16th. But I think they updated it with the in a dark place, because that's when they start to, or down farther, is when they start to talk about. Actually, I should maybe send an email. I had never thought to contact Nick and find out when it was said to him that the bodies, they had made it within 2 hours. Despite the grisly scene, investigators concluded within 2 hours that David Crowley was the one who pulled the trigger of the .40 caliber Springfield handgun found next to his body. So, yeah.
Well, there it is. You got the guy right there. You got him at least saying it. Yeah, it would be good to follow up and see within 2 hours.
Yeah, and I thought for sure there was another article that had the same wording in it. But,
well, that could have been by him or somebody taking his. Using him as
yeah, that's what I was trying to. Yeah, I was trying to find out if it was somebody copying his report or if it was a different one. I'll have to go because I go and look at that again because the one I remember reading was the police chief's, whatever how you say his name, was the one who said within 2 hours, and which is different wording than what this is saying right here. So it's obviously written in two separate places. But I'll have to find it.
Well, yeah, and I would say Nick needs to be contacted on that. Nick Ferrara?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so he needs to be contacted on that to find out why he wrote that within 2 hours. And does he still stand by that? Sometimes he'll try to back off, but if he put it in writing already, it's hard to back off from it.
Let me see something. Yeah, because I know at one point I did talk to Nick, but I'm trying to see if I remember if I even asked that particular question. I'm not sure I did. Okay, no, I didn't ask him that one. I did not ask that particular question. So I think I will try to send him another one and ask him if that's what he remembers being told exactly.
Awesome.
Because he's always been, you know, very upfront and always willing to answer any questions, you know, that I've ever had. He's answered them. So I'll send him that one.
That's great. Yeah, because that's a big deal right there.
Yeah.
2 hours, impossible. And why he didn't follow up on that, or maybe he was like 2 hours. Well, that's kind of like you must know something that we don't know, and maybe it was because everybody thought that they had a suicide note. There were notes mentioned, but we didn't know at the time, and some of these early news media ran with it that, well, because there was a note there, that it was a note written by David that was a suicide note. It's like they were just running to some story that did not exist, looking for just another story for their local newspaper.
Yeah.
They chose the wrong one. This is not one of those that's just going to easily go by the wayside.
Nope, it's not. They're going to be looking into everything. And I do believe that this information that we've covered should be handed over to the private investigator, too.
Well, I think as long as the private investigator has the same data, it's important to let the private investigator just do whatever they do and just, you know, I mean, we're all looking at the same data. So at some point, the private investigator is going to see this stuff, and we just want to make sure, and you know, because we just want to let the private investigator do his job, and not be not be influenced by anything. That's why I don't want to know anything. I just want to whatever until the final thing is, until the private investigator says, okay, I'm done. Here's what I have. Here's what I found. Here's what you can do with it. Then I think it's going to get very interesting. The search warrants too. It's like I'm on page 8 right now, and they're mentioning they go up to item 53. So they stop at the bullet. Actually, I think it's item 52 that they stop at in the first set. Now they go up to 55. No, these are different items. So, and that's the other thing.
Well, they were taking the blood samples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so they have
there's 3 different lists, 3 itemized lists too. Go ahead.
Page 8.
Yeah, I'm looking for the blood.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. Okay. This is in reference to guns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's just a different number on there. I thought you were talking about there was a different area that's on the property, the evidence that they took from the house.
Mm-hmm.
And in those pages, they go from one bullet to the blood samples that they took from the bodies, and then it goes to the other bullet that they found in the attic. So that's what I thought you were referring to, and I apologize for the confusion.
No, they do have those too. there are those where it's like, I think the first one stops at 52, then the second one has 53, and then all of a sudden 57 is there. And they just, like, if people who don't really understand that these were found at different times, they wouldn't even know it. They would just think that everything was found at the same time. That's why those have been two of the biggest things to really get people to kind of second guess what the police told us, because you have all these strange things. And those, to me, are just two of the biggest ones. I think when we get into the phone records, into the financial records, into all of these other records, it kind of, there's more questions for some of this stuff. But with the search warrants and all that, I think it really helps us understand what they were looking for, what they had a search warrant for. And there's a reason why they chose these things. It wasn't just, well, this is standard, let's go for this. No. There was a lot going on. Reading these search warrants, it seemed like there was a lot going on that led them to want all of this stuff, to want these search warrants, to what they were looking for, and how vague some of this stuff is for what they're looking for. All writings, all computer data, all phone numbers, all of that stuff. Some of the stuff that they got, like Chris Peck, the whole Chris Peck thing is like, somebody had to have told them that. Where's the detective work or the police work that got them to where they found out that Chris Peck had called David Crowley, if that was true, or David Crowley had texted him?
And see, I just, I'm beginning to wonder if the police just believed them.
But who was feeding? I mean, this goes back to the thing that somebody was feeding them this early on. Who was feeding the police so much stuff? And we could go back to the very, to when the bodies were actually found. People are feeding things to the police on and on and on from the very start.
Right.
Now, whether that's purposely or whether it's just because that's how they are, that's a whole other thing. But, I mean...
Yeah, because one look at these cell records, if they had looked at them and looked at the names, yes, it took me a while to do it, and Sophia too. Without her help, I wouldn't have been, well, it would take me a whole lot longer to finish it. But, if they had even begun to look at the cell phone records and then looked at the notes from the people who were talking to them, they would have known right away it wasn't matching up.
Or maybe they know something we don't know. I mean, there's no doubt that they looked at these records, right? I don't have any doubt that they actually went through them, and so they should have seen a lot of this stuff. Maybe they found the answers that we don't have. Whatever those answers were, again, it doesn't lead them to think that David Crowley is guilty if they found those answers. But there's still a lot of weird things like that with these phone records. I mean, to me, that's been the biggest thing that I've been just, having nightmares about, just trying to figure out what am I looking at here?
Yeah, and you're too kind-hearted, Greg. You give them a whole lot more credit than I'm willing to, because, when I type this out, and as I'm looking at each line, and then I remember what is written or told to the police by others, I pull that out of the police reports, and I look at these phone records, and they don't match up. Then that tells me that obviously the police did get the records because we had them from the phone company, but did they actually look at them? I doubt it. Because if they did, to me, that would be a blatant closing of their eyes and not investigating the case. You know, and if they
just a simple follow-up call, would have done.
Yes.
Say, hey, you know, because it would have been in their supplements. Called such and such back to double check on the dates. Maybe they had something wrong, but we don't see any supplements being updated or anything.
Correct.
So I have to question it, just like Catherine was saying.
Correct. I see them not doing their due diligence in checking out the information they were given. Now, maybe they felt that they could trust who was talking to them. I don't know. I'm not saying that the police did it out of malice. I'm just saying it happened. They didn't check it out. But why? Don't know.
Is it possible that they checked it out and just didn't find anything?
Well, we're looking at it and we're finding it. So I don't believe that.
But you're not finding anything that would help prove David Crowley is guilty, and that's all they would be ordered to look for. Nothing else, right?
Right, exactly. I find nothing
that
David is guilty, but I find a lot of questionable responses from the people who spoke to them. When you have people who say, you know, hey, I got a call, or I text them, or, you know, we talked to them on this certain date, or he contacted me to buy weed. Yeah, right. When only 2 phone calls in a matter of 3 or 4 months. Well, 1 phone call and 1 text. Yeah, I don't buy it. They dropped the ball. Again, whether it was on purpose or maybe they just, by the time they got the cell phone records, maybe they felt they had their proof and just said, okay, we're just going to add this to the case file, but we're not going to go through it. I don't know. That's supposition on my part, totally.
That can't be, because they have these documents. They had these by February 2015, so they had them one month later.
Okay.
They had plenty of time to go through this stuff.
Okay, so why? And then my question back to them is, why did they not? Because it is plain as day. There's a huge issue with these phone records and what the narrative is on what happened. When David, again, when he goes silent in November, and his body, quote unquote body, is found in January, that should be a huge red flag to the police.
Sure, but at the same time, you have people telling them why without them. Maybe they asked them, but maybe people are offering things of telling them why they went dark, why they went silent, why they weren't talking with anybody, et cetera, which a lot of that I think has been. I don't buy it. You know, I'm not buying that David went silent, that he was distancing himself because they were planning on killing himself. Or planning on, he was, going into a dark place and he killed everybody. But
and I agree. I mean, I agree. I don't see this where he stops communication on his cell phone as any indication of that, because all of his writings and everything else up to that point or whatever was always positive, always looking forward. But my point is the police had on hand their notes from the people they supposedly interviewed, where they gave them specific information, and that information is not corroborated by the evidence that they got from other legitimate places like AT&T.
Right, but they didn't even follow up on. They had a simple question with Chris Klein, and they had David's dad saying that he was not in the house with Chris Klein on January 19th.
Correct.
And they did not follow up on that. They had no interest in following up on a phone call. It's much less likely they're going to follow up on phone records. So maybe you're right. Maybe they didn't go through this stuff.
Well, yes, because when you look at the cell phone records again with Chris Klein, I think I found 1 call, 1. And then, that does not tell me that they were best buds and that he really knew that family. And so why is he in the house?
I would also. Well, did they find any social media activity, anything like that too? because that was a big thing. That was a big thing. Phones weren't, nobody was really using the phone, especially landlines. Cell phones, maybe, but it was a lot of social media activity. If you look at David Crowley, he was more active on social media than he was, on these phone records. If you look at the phone records, you might think that he wasn't making a lot of calls, distancing himself. But if you look at the social media activity, it sounds like he was active, publicly active.
Why isn't that part of the police report then?
It's not
They
part of
just
the
pick and
police
choose.
reports, but it is part of the police data. So if you go back to the 485 pages of BCA data that Dan Hinnon first got, it has almost all of David's social media activity just on Facebook, I think, going back to 2007, maybe 2009.
Yeah, and a lot of that is totally irrelevant.
It is.
It just doesn't make much sense to the case at all. And why would they do that?
Yeah, but they also have a screenshot of a post that was taken out. So they know that there was at least one post from David Crowley's account that was removed. In that same area, they have a profile photo of Sean Wright.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that they didn't know this.
Right.
It's one more lead that is just not followed up on. But this is different. This is not just he said, she said. This is somebody taking out a post for a specific person.
And that was after they died, correct?
That was after they died, because it is not part of the data of the Facebook records that the police show in these documents, but they have it separately. That's weird. That's odd.
Yeah, so right there they know that somebody's going in and deleting stuff, and that, again, is another red flag.
Yeah. It is.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's unbelievable. Again. It's like the more questions we get answered, 1,000 more pop up.
Absolutely. And this case is it's one of those conundrums.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to figure it out, but there's just no answer, and you just go over in a circle over and over. It's starting to give me a headache.
Well, it's going to be a long time, I'm sure, before those headaches stop, until we can get some clear answers on some of these simple questions we have here.
Yeah. You're right. Pace yourself.
Pace yourself. That's right. Go through these documents. Pace yourself. Don't burn out. You don't have to go through everything. Go through whatever you think you can get to, and whatever will lead you to find the answers. And that's why it's been such a blessing to have both of you and so many people going through this stuff, because you can't just have a couple people doing it. We need as many people as we possibly can get to look through these documents if they're real people. We're not looking for fake people. We're not looking for people that are just trying to stir up stuff, or even people that are treating this like entertainment. This is not entertainment. There's nothing entertaining about this. This is not to get yourself over. It's not for you to make money. All of those people were there in a couple of weeks, and after a couple of weeks of the case, they were gone. Right? They didn't see it. There was nothing sexy about this story. There was there's nothing that they could really latch on to. This was the real deal here, and a lot of people, I think, they just were not ready for it. It was all supposed to be fun and games, and we're going to stand up against the government and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden it's like, oh well, this stuff really happens. There's real cases that you can look at and have a lot of questions about if this is a real killing, or if these people were killed. And we're not just talking about 3 random people. We're talking about a child. When you start looking at what happened to that 5-year-old child, that's just like,
It's stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, it really is. And the fact that so many people are just willing to just move on and just give up and just shut down and just turn a blind eye to these simple things here. That's frustrating. To me, that's very frustrating. And I lost a lot of respect for a lot of people. But it was weird because right before all this happened, I was kind of questioning people and kind of going through my own spiritual journey, and I prayed about it. And I prayed about, God, if, get me away from these people if they're not real. And I'll tell you what, I found myself alone, except for Dan Innan and a couple other people. I was like, yeah, that's just, I'd rather research this with 4 or 5 real people than research it with, hundreds, thousands of millions of people that are just in it for their own gain and not in it for the right reason.
Yeah, and the ones that, really bother me a lot too are the ones who have such they know the case exists, but they really have no in-depth knowledge of anything, and then voice opinions and blame David, and it's like
solve the case. They have it solved.
Yeah, they've solved it
2
without
hours.
knowing it. Yeah, and I'm like, wow, okay, don't waste your time with me. Don't talk to me. Read the case, and don't expect me to give you all the answers all the time. Read it for yourself.
Yeah.
That's something I learned a long time ago. When you go out of your way to gather all the information to show somebody who says that they want to know an answer, but then they don't read it, they constantly question it, and then they deny the proof that you give them. It's like, don't even waste your time. Go away.
Yeah. Life is
That's
too short.
the most frustrating part.
Yeah, that's why I'm like going now, well, you know what? If you think I missed something, you do it. Why aren't you sending it in? Why aren't you contacting these people? If you think that and I'm not saying I do it all right. So if I have forgotten or I haven't done it in the way you think it should be done, then get off your lazy butt and you do it.
Yeah.
We've got our hands full here. We don't, we spend a lot of time on this, a lot of our own personal time. And like you said, Greg, we can't do it all. It's just too much. And,
a lot of people don't understand that we have families.
Right.
So we can't look at this case 24/7, although we have invested a lot of hours and a lot of time, and in some cases a lot of money in this case.
Yep.
And all we're asking is that we get fresh eyes to also be looking at these records, to also go through, and whether they share it, that's on them. But at least if we have people looking and offering help to answer our questions, we'd be so grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And to have just any answers, especially with these phone records, with the questions with the 00 or these weird numbers showing up, it would really be a godsend to have those answers for us.
Yeah.
So we can move on to something new and start dissecting that information.
Right.
Yes, I'm putting this up here. Page 1 of David's newest phone record. Help me understand items 1 through 4. That's all I need.
Okay.
Well, that's not all I need, but I need to start. I can't even move on to anything. Well, maybe this happened. Maybe I can't move on to anything with the phone records until I can understand that flow. So I'm trapped. Help me.
I know. And if somebody can help us understand, this will, I think, unravel a lot.
Yeah.
For everybody, not just us, but for the entire case.
I hope so.
And
all right,
just
good peeps.
Going back and rehashing, they only took 2 cell phones out of that house. Burner phones were not found in that house. And they went through everything. They searched it.
You're right. They went through everything.
Yeah, there were no burner phones and there were no landlines.
And there were no writings either that they didn't find, that they didn't go through, according
Correct.
to what they're saying.
Thank you. Correct.
Yes.
It's all
No
there.
magical journals.
No magical.
There you go.
No.
Mystical journals. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, unless it showed up like the bullet hole in the ceiling. No.
Hey, that's where they found that journal. The bullet was on top of the journal in the attic.
Now it makes sense.
And
Now
I think the burner was right there in the bullet hole.
There you go. It was attached to the trusses of the roof.
That's why they missed it. Because the Christmas tree was there, they couldn't see it.
They couldn't see it.
Couldn't look up in the attic.
Although they could open the door and see it right away when they went there, but it was the Christmas tree's fault.
Well, they could put their finger through it too. So maybe they put their finger through it, and that's why there's no burner phone. They burned it.
They pushed it through the attic.
Pushed it all through the attic and everything. But thankfully, we had two people or multiple people in the house who were looking in the house, and they found it.
Right, people who didn't, who weren't there with the people they said they were.
Yes, without them, we'd all be lost.
And who weren't friends.
There you go.
Yes, but somehow end up in their house, and didn't say how they got in.
No,
oh, is that
I don't know.
Didn't tell the police that they were there. No.
If Paleo ate the burner, maybe we should contact the vet and see if there was any in his poop.
I think Paleo might have changed the burner number.
That's it. Oh. Greg, you solved it. It was who forwarded all these numbers. That's it.
There we go.
Case solved.
There we go. Case solved.
All right, we're all in trouble.
Those joints too, just so you know. He was grounded. Oh gosh, okay, we gotta stop. I'm getting too snarky for my own good.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay. More serious folks. We weren't being serious. We're being very snarky.
No,
yes,
but
yes,
you know,
we are.
Yeah, you can still take that out of context. You can twist it and
they will. They'll go, this is what they said.
They're crazy. They went to a dark place and snapped. That's it. All right.
Now they're joking about the murders. Oh my gosh.
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's okay to accuse somebody of a double murder suicide within a few hours, a few days, with no evidence, but you know, it's not okay to question it. So let that be a lesson to both of you.
We should not be asking questions. We should not be looking any deeper. We need to take everything at face value.
Yeah, just go with whatever the group mentality says. Whatever the bullies say, believe it. That's it. Done.
There you go. No more heartache.
Life is good. Go back to life. Well, I think we're going to choose the other way. I think we're going to keep looking into this. You know, maybe another couple hundred videos and a couple hundred articles, and you know, just whatever we can do to keep this case going till we can get the real answers, right? Get this into the real hands of some people that can really help us. That can help get some answers. It can help, at the very least, to change this case to where it isn't, to where people realize that David Crowley was never proven guilty. I think that's one of the biggest things that is getting missed here. That is the most important thing. Is from the very beginning, this has all been about proving David Crowley guilty. They don't have any evidence to prove David Crowley guilty, and in the end, they claim David Crowley is guilty.
Yep, and a dead man can't defend himself.
And they cannot prove a dead man guilty. And they know this. And they know this. All right. Any final words, anybody?
Well, just thanks for doing this, and Sophia and Greg, you two have a great night.
All right, you too.
You too, Catherine.
Okay, well,
have a great night.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Hey there, good peeps. just want to drop a few lines here. Thinking about this case and thinking about all the different aspects of it, how far we've come, how far we still have to go, and all the theories, and continually being asked to speculate on what I think happened, what the theory is, what the, if David didn't do it, then who did, right? But I think it has to be clear, and I was thinking about this today, that, my goal is not to solve this case. I don't believe we can solve this case. I don't know who did it and who didn't do it and all that. All I know is that David didn't do it. I know that. But there's a difference between solving the case and getting justice, and getting the case reopened will bring justice. Now, the case does need to be solved. I will say that. It is definitely true. But it needs to be solved by investigators. It needs to be solved by some type of law enforcement, whether that be federal, state, whatever. We know that local didn't do it, and it seems they have no interest in solving this case, unless we could put pressure on them. And even if we do, I wouldn't really want them investigating themselves or reinvestigating this case based on the horrible job that they all did. It should be at a federal level at some point, I think. But basically the point is, we are not going to solve this case. The investigators can solve this case. I do believe that. We can reopen this case. We can help get the case reopened. That will eventually lead to finding out who did what and when, why and how. But it's not going to be us. We could speculate on it, and we could think about what might have happened, who might have been involved, who has motive. All that stuff is good. That has to be done. It has to be brought up. It needs to be talked about so we can work through it. But in the end, it is not going to be us that solve this case. It has to be the investigators, real investigators. And we need to help them, to give them those tools that they can solve this case. And I think it's possible. I really do. But in order to even get there, in order to even really have a serious talk about all of that, we need to do what we can to get the case reopened. So speculating on theories, who might have done what, for me personally, is not going to help me at this point. It's not going to help me to try to build off of theories. And I think it's also going to hurt, at some level, it's going to hurt the investigators, the future investigators, who might go back and look at some of the work that we have done and might be a little turned off about some of the theories that are brought up. And that's fine. That's okay. It doesn't matter if they're turned off or if they're turned on about anything. That's not their job. Whatever their job is, their job should be to investigate this case thoroughly, a real thorough investigation, and find out who did what. But in order to even get there, we've got to get to the point where we can get this case reopened. And if it's not going to be reopened at the local level, which we know that it's not, it has to go higher. I also wanted to remind everybody, and make sure that I remind myself as well. I want to remind everybody who's looking into this that this is not about you. Don't make it about you. This is about a very tragic thing that happened to 3 people, 3 innocent people. And it's very easy to just kind of mix in our own life, our own views, our own theories and all that into this. And you can't stop from doing that at some point, sometimes, but I just want to make sure that we don't make it about us. It's not about us. It's not about us getting it right and proving other people wrong or anything like that. This is about getting justice. This is about finding the absolute truth in regards to this tragedy here. Now, we know part of the truth, right? Because we obviously know that David Crowley is not proven guilty and can never be proven guilty. It is a guess. Not even an educated guess, as they might say. Just a guess. But we start bringing in our own personal feelings, our own views, and all that stuff, which you cannot help. But we need to make sure that at all costs we stay focused on what the clear goal is, and to make it about this family and about finding justice for this family, not about us, not about anything else. And I hope that's clear. I just want that to be said, just as a reminder. Keep it in the back of your head, and hopefully that will help. Hopefully these things will lead to us finally one day getting justice. And the first part of justice is obviously to get the case reopened. I also want to remind people that it's very important in a case like this to be honest, to be open, and to not be deceptive. It's very important. Everything that we do should be done with love. That includes being honest. So don't play games. Stay away from the people that are playing games. And don't feed the trolls. Don't give them anything. Let them do what they do. That's what they're going to do. That's what they want to do. That's their choice. That's their problem that they'll have to deal with when they meet God. So I just want to make that very, very clear that it is never a good idea to play all of these games. And if you do, and if you wake up one day and you realize that it's wrong, you ask God to forgive you for what you've done. You go to the people that you've wronged and you ask them. And that's all that you can really do. And hopefully it becomes something learned. It's a lesson learned. Those are the best ones. Because we need good people here. And we don't need people that are just trying to distract, trying to discourage, and trying to divide. The 3Ds. Alright, we don't need any of those. What we need is real truth seekers, real people that really care about getting to the absolute truth. That's what we need. That's all we've ever needed. And pacing yourself is not a bad thing. That's fine if you can solve this case in a couple days. That's great. That's wonderful. If you can do something that will help get the case reopened so that the investigators can actually do their job and solve this case, awesome. That's great. But it's also very important that you do it your way and allow other people to do it their way. Sometimes worlds collide. Sometimes people clash. Sometimes we're stronger when we work as a team, but not always. And it's always very important to know who is on your team to build a trustworthy team. And to remind people not to laugh, not to make fun of other people because they don't know anything, or to just spend all of your time calling out other people for what they don't know. It's better, your time is better spent, from my view, your time is better spent just on showing people why they should pay attention to ABCD. That's what I think. There's enough drama in the world. There's enough gaga. There's enough, lying. There's enough all of that stuff. We don't need to add more on top of a case that is so serious. So it's very important to not get involved in these games that people play, to be honest and to do your best. Because every day you have to wake up and look yourself in that mirror and know that you did the best that you could. That's important. And if you got your own problems, try not to bring your issues into the group, into this case, because it is very, very serious. It's not something to be taken lightly. And unfortunately, it's not something that is just going to be solved overnight. I wish it would. I really do. But maybe somebody will wake up tomorrow and, solve it. But not really solve it, but at least get to the point where the case is being reopened, or at least their official conclusion has been changed to unknown. I think that will be a huge victory. I think in the mind and in the eyes of the general public, I think we've already won that battle. I think we've already proven that nobody can prove David Crowley guilty, and the ones that try are just spinning wheels, and are just doing it for their own purposes. But it's obviously not for truth, because there is no truth in that. We know what the truth is here. It's very clear. So with that said, just again, try to remind everybody, be honest, be truthful, don't be deceptive, don't get involved in the games, stay focused, and we will get there. Alright, so here is the big 485-page PDF. Now, it can be a little bit overwhelming when you download a PDF and you see that it's 485 pages. I get it, but it's worth it. It is worth going through. And I'm going to try to give you a little teaser here of why you should go through this, I guess. The first reason, obviously, is for facts or is for data. So if you don't believe what is being written in this report is necessarily facts, it is data. So we are collecting data. The first thing you're going to find from page 1 through 5 is the Minnesota BCA ACISS 2015-28. Report is dated 1/17/2015. You have the occurrence dates of 1/17/2015 at 1400 to 1/18/2015 at 5:30 a.m. 0530. Page 6 through 8 is Brian Bones' application for a search warrant, January 17th at 15:06 military time. That would be 3 p.m. Page 9 and 10 is the actual search warrant that is signed by the judge of the district court at 15:06. Page 11 is Brian Bones' receipt, inventory, and return. This shows that at 16:51 they searched the house, the vehicles, and the bodies. They collected items AV-1 through AV-22. Pages 12 through pages 13 are written by Sean McKnight. The receipt, inventory, and return. Date of search warrants issued by the judge is the wrong year on both pages, 12 and 13. The collected items AV-23 through AV-55 were collected, or at least written down, by Sean McKnight. And you can see on this, you can see that it's noted who actually collected that item. You'll see a TB, Tara Becker, SM, Sean McKnight, and so forth. BB, Brian Bone. So that's what those little indications are next to it. Page 14 through 17 is the Minnesota BCA ACISS Investigative Supplement Report, 2015-28/1. Report date is 1/22/2015. Two case files are mentioned here. The AVPD 15-303, and the other case file that is mentioned here is the MNBCA Forensic Laboratory S15-00662. Okay, so 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 are CDs. There are 3 CDs out there. 1.1 contains the raw digital images of latent prints from the crime scene. 1.2 is a CD that contains raw digital images of handwriting on wall from the crime scene. And 1.3 is a CD containing raw digital images of bloody footprints found at the scene. Page 17 specifically mentions blood footprints. Now, I know that there is an image out there, a couple of them out there, that when I first saw the pictures of bloody prints on the kitchen living room area floor, I thought they were handprints. I really did. I go back and forth sometimes, but I do, right now at least, I do believe, yes, they are footprints. So I've been looking at any evidence of them being either footprints or any mention of them being fingerprints. But here they are specifically mentioned on page 17 as footprints. So we're going to start there. Okay, we're going to say, okay, this is what the BCA, this is what the investigators concluded at this point, that they were footprints. What's even more interesting is that you can clearly see that it is one foot. It is a right foot. So here's what I have some notes for about page 18 and 19. This is a laboratory analysis request at the attention of Tommy Booth. The estimated due date for these latent prints would be 4/26/2015. The estimated due date for the question documents, which we'll cover later, would be 4/26/2015. So they're saying by 4/26/2015, they should have some answers about the latent prints and about the question documents. The circumstances and purpose of the analysis is for the latent print comparison and the handwriting analysis comparison. Sticking with that document on page 19, the document was submitted by Elizabeth Elyers of the BCA and received by Carol David on January 26, 2015 at 11:17:48. Page 20 is interesting because it's a draft page. Draft is written 3 times in red on this page, and there's really not much to this. This was filled out, and this is, okay, so we're getting into the ACISS report. Now remember, ACISS report 2015-28. And what you're going to see is a lot of these documents are going to have the same name, ACISS report 2015-28, but then it's going to have a /2/3. Let's go to page 21. MNBCA ACISS attachment 2015-28/3. The report date is 1/26. This is the preliminary autopsy. Okay, so page 23, 24, and 25 are the press release report about this case regarding David, Kamel, and Rania, released by the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office. And it basically says David died as a result of a suicide, Kamel died as a result of a homicide, Rania died as a result of a homicide. By 1/21, there's no doubt in their mind. Or they wouldn't have released those documents. But they needed to, especially for public panic, and really especially just for all of the conspiracies. But I didn't think that they really gave the conspiracies any chance. They did not even want to consider a conspiracy here. That's the way I saw it. I don't see any. I mean, you can read these police reports and you can clearly see they're very careful to mention the public is not in danger, everything is fine, we got this case solved. That's pretty much all we were getting, and that just fueled so many conspiracies. And instead of helping these conspiracy theorists kind of understand what was really happening, a lot of people just went silent, they went dark. And I can understand, it really puts the investigators in a very tough spot, especially if they really do want to help the public understand what happened here. It's a very tough spot now because it is an ongoing investigation. But at the same time, they're completely discrediting any possible theory of foul play. They're completely glossing over any possible explanation, any reason, anything that might show that they cannot prove David Crowley is guilty. It's one thing to accuse him, but it's another thing to actually prove it. They were successful in accusing him to a point, and up to a certain date is what I think. They were very successful in trying to convince the public and trying to convince the average person that David Crowley was guilty. They failed, and they continue to fail. And the reason the case needs to be reopened is because they will continue to fail to prove David Crowley is guilty because they cannot prove it. I truly, honestly believe that. Now, can I prove that they cannot prove it? Yes. If these documents, if what I have, if everything that I've seen is what they base their theory on, unless they have secret knowledge, some hidden information, unless they have things that we're not seeing, yes, I believe we can prove that they cannot prove David Crowley is guilty based on their evidence, based on their documents, based on their photographs, based on their reports, based on their comments, based on everything they have given us. There is no way that the police, that these investigators can look at the documents, look at the photos, look at everything they've given us and say, okay, you will understand now why David Crowley is guilty. They really didn't even try. They were already thinking it didn't matter what they told us. We were still going to think David Crowley was not guilty. That's their own fault. And they were monitoring the group page. They were monitoring the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group and the Justice for David Crowley of Gray State Facebook page. So they knew that there were people like me who were not convinced. They lumped people like me into a category where everybody thought that the government killed David, and that was it. That's totally wrong, and that's totally unfair to real people who were really looking for what really happened here. They did a big disservice to us. So I think they were kind of like, well, it doesn't matter what we tell you, you're still going to think David Crowley didn't do this. And to me, that made it sound like, okay, so then you're not going to put any effort into it, right? That's pretty much what you're telling me, and that's what I told. Well, I didn't tell Gummert. That's what I should have told Gummert. Is you just said that no matter what, you think we'll still be convinced that David Crowley did not kill his wife and his daughter and then kill himself. Even though I've stated publicly many, many times that I'm open to it, that I want to see it, I want the evidence. They didn't even look at that. They didn't even care. Because it wasn't about that. Those are the people they should have been focusing on, not the people who were set that the government killed David, or that David was part of some global conspiracy, or it's going to release some movie that was going to change the whole world, or whatever. So they did a very big disservice to the public, because they did not help us understand. They didn't even take the time, really. So anyways, Gummert did. Gummert at least took the time to answer those questions. He tried to back out, kind of, not really back out, but he, at first he was not going to answer those questions. But he's a man of his word. Gummert is a man of his word, and he answered those questions, and I thank him for that. Page 26 is ACISS Attachment 2015-28/4, report date 1/26/2015. And this is in regards to the latent prints of David Crowley and the DD-214, which is his military record. That was requested by Chris Olson. Status was approved, and the approved date is 1/26/2015. The record originating date is 1/26/2015. It says on January 21st, 2015, oh, here we go. Here's the FBI thing now. Because it was always, were the FBI involved? Were the Department of Homeland Security involved? Were the FBI involved? Who was involved? So now we have the one mention of the FBI in these documents. I think this is the only mention that you'll ever see. And it's only for Olson to request from the FBI, from the Minnesota FBI, David Crowley's fingerprint card taken by the U.S. military on 6/24/2003. And this FBI agent, Travis Yarberg, sent Olson David's DD-214 on January 21st, 2015. This shows they had David's fingerprint. This is going to be one of the most important things that you're going to read in these documents, simply because of they have one match to David's fingerprint, one. And it's on the notebook in the office bedroom. That's it. They don't have a fingerprint. They don't have a palm print of David's on that gun. They can't do it. Now you could say, well, it's because the gun was there for 3 weeks. You could say it's because of the dog. Whatever you want to say. That is a fact. They could not put the gun in David's hand. That's a big thing. It's a huge thing. It's one more reason to reopen this case, I think. You talk about the smoking gun. The bloody gun might be the smoking gun. Okay, so Olson gets the fingerprint card from the FBI on January 21st. Then on the following day, he receives David's DD-214 from SAIC Michael F. McDaniel. So even though we were told that the FBI were not involved, technically they weren't, and technically they were, right? They weren't involved in the investigation. There's no proof that they were involved in the investigation, but they were contacted. So, semantics, yeah, okay. I'll give them that one. And then page 28 through 31, another ACISS crime scene supplement. 2015-28/5. So now we're into the fifth part. Still dated 1/17/2015. The crime scene processing. That's what we're going to be going through here now. The BCA received a call at 14:17. They arrived at 15:30. Their work was completed on 1/18 on the following day at 4:30. The BCA on page 28, you'll see the BCA took 800 photographs. They took a photograph of the exterior, the interior, general area, point of entry, no. Point of exit is no. Shoe prints, no. That was interesting. Footprints, yes. Tire tracks, no. Tool marks, no. Victim injuries, yes. Weapons, yes. So when you think about just another thing, going back to those shoe prints, I did notice that comparisons to the officer's shoe prints were made to shoe prints in the snow. And then I wondered, did the police ever compare David's shoes to the shoe prints in the snow? And then I wondered if the police ever compared David's shoes to the shoe prints in the snow. Page 31 shows Ellier's story. She was contacted by the BCA's Operations Center, and she was requested to respond to the crime scene in Apple Valley. SSA O'Donnell documented the crime scene through video, which was recorded onto a mini DVD and which was later transferred to a DVD for easy viewing. So the photos are on a DVD that is marked item .2. Page 32 and 33 cover the Minnesota BCA ACISS attachment 2015-28/7. So now we're to the seventh document associated with this. The report date is 2/13/2015 from 17:05 to 17:13. Okay, these reports and exhibits are received by the Apple Valley Police Department. Report by Chris Olson on 2/13/2015. S.A. Olson received 20 PDF files. 20 PDF files. These files included reports and other investigative exhibits relevant to this investigation. If you look at page 34 through 37, you get half a list of the top 200 donors. Start with number 1, and it's a big jump from number 1 to number 2. Okay, so page 38, you'll see here, we got the training here that Kamel and David took. If you're looking at page 40, you'll see Kamel's training verification through Quorum Security Incorporated. Page 43 has the gun that David gave to Danny Mason as a gift. Page 44, Kamel's firearms bill of sale, purchased on 7/25/2009 at the Gun Zone in Dallas, Texas. She paid with a check, total of $508.76. She bought a Springfield XD 40 caliber, serial number US 163310, signed by Kamel. Page 45 through 47 is David's training verification certificate. Course completed on November 8, 2009, and done by the same company, Quorum Security. Page 48 is David Crowley's private firearm transfer to Adam Schambauer. It's dated September 17, 2010. It's given as a gift, and it's from the AR-15. It is the lower receiver, serial number 61242. Page 49 is a private firearms transfer from David Crowley to David Stark, dated June 17, 2012, conducted as a sale. David sold Mr. Stark a Springfield XD 40 caliber subcompact, serial number US 163310. Kamel buys this gun on 7/25/2009 in Dallas, Texas for $508, sells it, or David sells it, to David Stark June 17th of 2012. Page 50 through 133 are the police reports. And here we go again, the police reports. There are some police reports in here, and there are some police reports that are missing. The ones that are missing look like it's generally the ones at the end of the 94 pages. So that's curious. The last update that we get where the case is exceptionally cleared is not in this set of police reports. That's a big deal. The other interesting thing to notice about this is some of what was censored in the 94-page PDF is not censored here. So there is some good data there. There is some good stuff to actually go through. And it'd be good to have a full comparison of everything about what is blocked out in the original 94 pages, and then compare that to what is not blocked out here in these 70 some odd pages that we have of police reports. Page 134, 137 is the BCA lab analysis request by Tommy Booth. The section involved the crime scene team. The estimated due date is 2/17/2015. Firearms, the estimated due date is 5/18/2015. Latent prints, the estimated due date 4/18/2015. The nuclear DNA, estimated due date 5/18/2015. And the question documents, estimated due date 4/18/2015. This is all on page 134. The evidence list begins on page 134 as well, and goes through all of the items number 1 through 48. Now, you'll notice just 1 through 48, because right now they don't have 49 through 56, and then later they'll have 57. So you're going to see this document, 3 sets of the same document here. Okay, and as we move on to page 138, the AVPD press release. Now we're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these press releases. Note these dates, note these times. This is very important. All right, so on page 138, this is the very first one. This is the first press release. Suspicious deaths. And you'll note here, It does not mention a double murder or suicide. This was set to release at 3:30 p.m. January 17th, 2015. Little over 2 hours have passed, and the first press release goes out. Suspicious deaths. Doesn't really say much. Shouldn't say much because they don't know much. This one is dated January 18th, set for release at 11:40 a.m. This one does mention a murder-suicide, but they're very clear to make sure that there's no threat to public safety. To me, that shows, and I think this has been brought up many, many times, but just to say it again, it does show that by this time, the police were working with the theory that David Crowley was guilty. That is their working theory. They don't have 2 bullets yet. They don't have item 53. They don't have item 57. Item 57, obviously, they don't find that one until February 18th when they're told about it by Chris Klein, or else they would never have item 57. So thank you, Chris Klein. Think about that for a second. Let's say they never had item 57. This wouldn't match up. Nothing would match up. Of course, only 4 bullets and 6 casings found on January 17th does not match up either. So if you're still looking at page 139, you can see, based on this, that the medical examiner's office is still working to positively identify the 3 dead bodies. They haven't identified them yet, and they're already working with this theory that David Crowley is guilty. Even on January 19th, they don't have a positive ID, page 140. But they're already treating this as an apparent murder-suicide. So maybe they're just being cautious. Maybe that's just legal speak, and they're just making sure CYA. And on page 141, dated 1/21/2015 at 3 p.m. Now they have a positive ID. So by 1/21, they have a positive ID. They have already said that they believe that this was a murder-suicide. We can conclude that by 1/21/2015, the police are working with that theory that David Crowley is guilty. They're not looking at other theories. They're not looking at foul play. They've ruled out foul play. Okay, page 142 is going to be the 5th and final press release that we're going to see here. And the investigation is still ongoing. Last verified activity from the residents was late December of 2014, according to investigators. Captain John Bermel is actually quoted in this last one. He is quoted, "The analysis of these devices could provide important information about this incident, but that analysis will take time." Page 144, 145, and 146 all look like they are trying to identify Kamel. January 18th, 1:49 a.m. Ryan Olson sends Sean McKnight this image on page 145 to identify her by her tattoos. Probably one of the fastest, easiest ways to identify a person, I would think. We're going to move on to page 147. Page 147 shows how they were trying to identify David Crowley through the tattoos. And you will note that date originally sent from Ryan Olson to Sean McKnight on January 17th, 2015. Okay, page 150 to 151 is a release form where they are releasing the dog to Dan Crowley Jr. The dog was obviously impounded on 1/17/2015. It's a mixed breed. It's a male. Dan Crowley Jr. claims that dog on January 21st, 2015, according to these documents here. So this fax that we're seeing here, this document was faxed from the pet hospital to the Apple Valley Police Department on January 21, 2015. You can see that on page 151. On page 152, you will see that on January 23rd, 2015, Tommy Booth is notified that the forensic scientist assigned to the nuclear DNA section assignment in this case will be Rebecca Diane. Page 153 is the handwritten report with the list of authorities involved. This lists everybody who was involved in this case. Page 154 through 157 is Kamel's messages with an unnamed person. The dates include Monday, November 24th at 9:57 a.m., where she met with somebody at a coffee house. Kamel's plans for after the holidays. Quote, I'd also be interested in planning a more elaborate, fun get-together after the holidays. On page 155, she's corresponding with somebody on December 3rd, 12:39 p.m., and she responds on Friday, December 5th at 11:53 a.m. So you can read page 154 through 157, and you can see, and you can judge for yourself. Because we get down to page 156, and now we're in December of 2014. Page 158 shows what guns were taken from the house on January 18th, 2015. There are 9 in total. On page 159, you'll see that Brian Bone is trying to get access to David Crowley's Dropbox. He is requesting a preservation of the account and any account associated with this specific Gmail account, crawls04@gmail.com. Page 160 through 162, we're back to the BCA Forensic Science Service, filled out by the AVPD, Brian Bone. This is for the nuclear DNA test. Specifically, look at what it says under latent prints here. Elimination principles from all principles? No. Major case prints, finger/palms for crimes against people? No. Is the evidence process? No. DNA cases, known DNA samples from all principles? Yes and no. Still on page 161. It clearly says yes and no. Both of those boxes are marked on page 161. Page 162, the elimination principles names David, Kamel, and Rania. All right, page 164 shows Joe Cooksley as the forensic scientist assigned to the crime scene team. Page 165 shows that Catherine Roach is the forensic specialist assigned to the nuclear DNA section. Page 166 through 318 shows David Crowley's Facebook account activity. Page 319 through 332 is David Crowley's conversation with Brendan J. Look at page 335 and 336 now, and you will see this post that was removed. You won't find this post anymore on David's social media. This was removed, a removed post, page 335 and 336. So the police were able to get a record of this. All right, page 337 shows Sean Wright with Luke Radowski. Again, you got to ask why. What is going on here? Well, obviously, to the police, page 337 relates to 335 and 336, or it also relates to 338. Check out 338. That's when Sean Wright starts asking for the admin rights. So I was just wondering, when I looked at page 341, I was like, why is this post here? And then I scrolled up to page 340, 339. Now, the thing is, if they already think David Crowley is guilty at this point, why are they doing all this? Why are they going through all this stuff? I don't know. Page 342 is the email exchange between David and Jason Allen. Now, Jason Allen forwards this email to Sean McKnight on January 20th, 2015. David sent this email on 12/17/2014. He was planning for the future. He was actively planning for his future. How does that equal a suicide? How do they go from planning your future to committing a double murder suicide? Page 345 is a picture of David, Danny Mason, and others on Facebook. Page 346 through 349 is the AVPD Property and Evidence Report. Very important document here. Page 350 is the Property and Evidence Report, dated 1/22/2015 at 1:59 p.m. This is the bullet that rolled out of the carpet. It's also listed as item 026 on there. Page 352 is another Property and Evidence Report with the bodies in the bags. This is print dated 1/27. Page 353 is David's clothing list. Page 354 is the evidence receipt for David's clothing list. Page 356 to 358 is the same thing for Kamel, her evidence receipt. Page 362 is the property release form for the same bullet that was found on January 20th that rolled out of the carpet. Very interesting. The item number 53 was found on January 20th. Okay, page 363 to 367, forensic laboratory analysis requests for nuclear DNA comparisons for item 50, item 51, and item 52. David's known blood sample, Kamel's known blood sample, and Ranya's known blood sample. They also requested nuclear DNA comparisons for item 53. That was submitted on 1/23/2015 at 10:05. Page 368 to 372 is Brian Bones' application for a search warrant and supporting affidavit and search warrant. 373 to 375, Brian Bones / Sean McKnight receipt, inventory, and return. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. AV-1 through AV-55. You'll notice on page 373, it's dated 1/17/2015, but on page 374, it is dated 1/17/2014. Simple error, minor error. Here we have 23 through 44. Looking at page 375, going to AV-55. 367 is the receipt of filing search warrant. Contains a copy of the warrant. 378, AVPD Detective Michael Tietz to AT&T, National Compliance Center for AT&T.